Hello and welcome to Lexi Rose Reads, and today I have a Netgalley spotlight. So I just signed up for Netgalley this year, so I'm very new to it. I'm very late to the party. I know I am, but I just signed up for one, and I have my first arc, and I have finished it. So my review is already submitted on Netgalley, but I thought, what would be great is for me to highlight it, spotlight it in a sense, here on YouTube as well. So my first one that I read is The Smoke That Thunders by Erhu Kome. I think that's how you say the name. I am so sorry if I pronounce it wrong. I am very bad at names. I will admit that. But let's get into a little bit of the synopsis, and then I will tell you guys about my ratings and my feelings about this book. So let me pull up the synopsis over here. All 16-year-old Nobora dreams of sailing the seas. Instead, she feels suffocated. Her life already laid out. She'll have her rite of passage and spend her life bound to her house, husband, and children. Then Nobora begins having strange dreams and finds a mysterious animal that becomes instantly bonded to her. When she meets Atai, the son of an oracle from a rival kingdom, she learns that she is being guided by the gods. She and Atai journey to find the boy Nobora is dreaming of, but when that boy turns out to be a kidnapped prince, Nobora realizes that there is more than just her freedom at stake. She must stop a war that has already been set in motion. Woven through with Yoruba and West African folklore and mythology, The Smoke That Thunders is a gripping young adult fantasy that heralds the arrival of a powerhouse debut author. Again, debut author, which I feel like is a little confusing if you look at their Goodreads. They've had some other publishing stuff, and I'm not sure if they're like co-authored, or I haven't fully looked into that, I will admit that. But I started this one, and it's a very quick read. It is like 400 pages roughly, but like I said, it's a very quick read. Like, I read 30% of it on my lunch break alone. It's a very quick read, and like I mentioned, it's listed as YA. I would also venture to say this is more like an upper middle grades to lower YA, so like more mature middle grade readers could also definitely go ahead and read this, and it kind of does fit in with that as well. I think really the main character's age of being 16 is kind of what pushes it more towards YA, but I feel like I said, upper middle grades could also read this fairly well. And then I'll get into my rating. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. I really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, it was a super quick read, and this publishes on April 9th. Which is the day after the solar eclipse that's taking place across, a good chunk of North America. So, like I said, 4 stars for this one. And I do feel like it's maybe a little bit more middle grade than YA reading-wise. But with the main character being 16, I definitely see how they did put that into the YA category. And it is fantasy, it is mythology. So I definitely think if you love mythology like I do, it's definitely a route to take, because I have not personally explored much of West African mythology. Honestly, it had never occurred to me to look into it more, which is something I am now going to be hyper fixating on, because my hyper fixations are going to put me into that let's read this, So it's kind of something I explore. Most of my mythology background has been like Greek, Roman, some Norse mythology, but this is definitely a route I'm going to take, so I really did like that aspect of this book. One thing I would have liked to see more, maybe if there's like a sequel or more series that explore more of this from this author, is more in depth with the African mythology, because I am curious about it. Like I said, I am like an obsessive person about mythology. I don't know why. It's just something my brain likes to hyperfixate on. But we will go through a little bit more of my thoughts involving the story here. So our main character, she's 16, this is a great coming of age story. She's right in that perfect age range where most of those stories are coming of age, and you really see her personal development. And like the synopsis mentions, she feels suffocated. She's going to be forced into like an arranged marriage. It's very common in their culture for, them to be married off into a different family. And then the stereotypical of, you're going to be married off, you're going to take care of your husband, you're going to take care of your children, you're going to take care of the house. And that's just like not what she wants for her. And you know what? Good for her for realizing that. And that life is for some people, but she realizes that it is not for her. And she goes about it in a way where she can then be out on her own and not have to do that, which I really admire in her. I think she's a very admirable character, especially when you think she's 16. Like, she's already figuring this stuff out at 16. And let's admit it, when I was 16, I did not have any semblance of what I wanted to do with my life, except for vaguely healthcare is all I had decided at that point. Next, there is a very good balance between the action and the backstory of our main character and the characters around them. So we learn pretty early on that Nabori and her sister are not with their parents, and we find out kind of a little bit of a traumatic childhood, and their parents are no longer here, and so they are being taken care of by an aunt and uncle. And I feel like that helped shape a little bit of their path, like, you're going to go ahead and do with the traditions. Maybe if it was with her parents, her mom may have understood a little bit more about her point of view, I feel. But again, this is the culture they are in, so I get that. And like I've said before, my third point here, I love mythology and I love fantasy. I don't think if you've looked at a majority of the books I talk about on this channel, you realize I read a lot of fantasy. I also read a lot of thrillers, but I read a lot of fantasy. And fantasy has long time been one of my favorite series to go ahead and read. That is another great thing for me. That definitely is a point for this book in my category. You combine two of my favorite things, mythology and fantasy. Granted, you're not gonna have a lot of mythology without fantasy, but like, you get my point, you know? And like I said, I haven't read a lot about the African mythology, so I was really interested in that. Final point, I want to keep these videos nice and short, but final point here is that there is a very smooth transition from the middle grade to the young adult. So I think this is a good book for readers who are transitioning from that middle grade to that young adult. It makes a very smooth transition. Like I said, it's very easy to read. A lot of YA is very easy to read. Middle grade is also very easy, but it's like a little bit longer than typical middle grade, so it is a nice blending into your young adult. That being said, I would love if this book would become a series. Like, if we find out, you know, this is book one and we follow our main character again as maybe the god set another quest for her, that'd be amazing. I would love to read more of that, but that is all I have for you guys today. Bye.